This Geekster Media production starts now.
Welcome to So You Want to Be a Geek, the podcast where we dive into the vibrant and ever-evolving world of geek culture. Whether you're a seasoned fan or just curious about what makes being a geek so special, join us as we explore everything from comics to movies, gaming, tech, sports, and everything in between. Each episode will bring you insights, interviews, and the latest news to fuel your passion and expand your horizon. So grab your favorite fandom and let's embark on this geeky adventure together. I'm Michael Canetti, and this is So You Want to Be a Geek. The views, ideas, and statements discussed on this episode of So You Want to Be a Geek are only meant for conversation purposes. This episode is not intended to provide investment or legal advice. If you're interested in investing in cryptocurrency, always do your own research. And now, let's get geeky. Greetings, geeks. Welcome back to another episode of So You Want to Be a Geek. And this time, we are getting super geeky about cryptocurrency. It's a topic that I have been around or exposed to since around 2009, and I still don't fully understand it. But we have a guest here today that is a cryptocurrency expert and in the industry, and he's been doing this for a long time. I'd like to welcome Matt Lappas. How are you, Matt?
Michael, an absolute pleasure to be here today.
Dude, I'm so excited about this. When you proposed this idea to me, I was sort of like, this is a yes. And I told it to my friends, they're like, yes, please. No one knows what this is, and at least somebody can tell us what it's all about. And like, I have family in finance, and they talk about crypto, and I'm like, it's magic money. I don't understand how this works.
Well, I could easily make the argument that all money is magic.
Yes, it is. It really is. It's not based off of gold like it was in the before times, if you will.
Right.
So I'll tell you a little story first. So the first time I ever was exposed to like Bitcoin or anything like that, a buddy of mine that I work with at Apple was like, oh yeah, I have this computer and I mine for coins. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, oh yeah, I have Bitcoin. And then I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. It's just this currency. I'm like, well, how do you mine? Oh, it's a program. I have a couple computers built as a server in my basement. And then fast forward like 4 years later, he bought his whole house with Bitcoin. And I was like, sorcery. How does this work? So let me first start with like, how did you first become interested in crypto and all this technology-based money and currency?
Sure. So I guess just a little bit of background about me. I'm the North America head of financial crime operations at Accenture, the world's largest consulting firm. I've got 16 years of experience in financial crime prevention. I am former Deloitte, former EY, and Citibank. So I've been around financial services now for quite some time. I've helped, in the context of my work, I help some of the largest financial institutions in the world resolve their regulatory compliance problems. So whenever you see in the news there are lapses in AML programs, our firms would come in, work with the banks, and it could be fintechs, it could be any, now it's getting into retailers, to make sure that they are compliant with what the examiners are looking for. And what we always try and do is in the consulting world is that we want to try and stay on top of the latest trends. We want to try and stay on top of what is coming down the road from a financial perspective. And during we have a monthly practice meeting at our firm when I was at Deloitte I want to say October 2019, shortly before Biden went into office. One of our practitioners, he did an entire presentation around cryptocurrency. What are some of the anti-money laundering risks? I'm sure you've heard Elizabeth Warren screaming from the rooftops how Bitcoin is a facilitation for financial crime around the world. And so he sort of dug into that from an objective perspective, but he started talking about scramblers, and they started talking about the various kinds of coins that are out there. So he started talking about Bitcoin, started talking about altcoins. He started talking about some of the very interesting use cases that they're for. But then he also started talking about the benefits of it as well, which then caused me to go down this rabbit hole. So I took this topic at work, a short 15-minute presentation during a monthly team meeting, and I went down the rabbit hole hard. Basically all of December, just before the start of the next bull run, and actually right before COVID. So that was sort of the the gateway, and I started going on to sites like BitBoy Crypto was a big one. He was just starting out before he blew up. Then the Coin Bureau, that is that is still today, I believe, the #1 first class priority for anybody that wants to learn about the crypto markets broadly, but then they also deep dive into specific tokens and coins and different ones. And so they'll do exposés on things like Solana and Ethereum and the latest with Bitcoin, but then they'll actually dig into they'll dig into regulatory impacts across Europe for this so that's how I got my education, actually, through YouTube and reading a lot of white papers. A little known fact, every crypto token, I wouldn't say everybody, but more often than not, they're going to have a white paper basically spelling out what the protocol is, what the code is, what's the use case, et cetera, et cetera. So, but a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube.
There's a lot of YouTubers that talk about it.
A lot of you, but you gotta be really careful.
And you got to know who you're listening to, and they're not just like some Yahoo full of baloney. Like, I feel like sometimes people think of the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin as like that skit or the scene from Scarface where they're just like the money is rolling through and he's just like laughing, smoking cigars. Like, people think that that's what the world of it is, and it's so not that. It's this sort of deregulated sort of free market kind of capitalism in a way, or something like that. I don't even know how to fully explain it in my own brain, but like I see it as just like a way of people to feel like they have more control over their money, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think and then so I guess the first thing, yes, you have to be very discerning about who you're listening to, which, by the way, for the record, just like every other crypto program, these statements are for entertainment purposes only. They are my own personal beliefs and not the reflections of my firm. So I would be remiss not to at least call that out, just like everybody else, for liability purposes.
It's all good. Listen, this is the whole point of this podcast is because I try to redefine what it means to be a geek, right? Like, people are passionate about things. Like, I'm passionate about like all this collectible stuff. Yeah. People are passionate about Bitcoin and I think it's just, but they don't know what it is, or like, how do they get into it? Like, do I need to be a computer person that has to build a server to do this kind of thing? Like, what does it mean to have a half of a Bitcoin versus a whole Bitcoin? Like, they don't know what that stuff means. And I think it's more to just give them an education.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. However, I would almost be doing a disservice to the crypto podcasting community if I didn't roll out that line that's been coming out for like 10 years now, because people always misinterpret something and they're like, "You cost me $1 million." But then again, I will take credit if anybody comes.
Don't sue my podcast,
please, for the love of God. However, I will take credit if anybody becomes a Dogecoin millionaire.
Well, okay, I want to kind of talk about that because like everybody's heard about Bitcoin. I would say the next most familiar would be Ethereum, but like, there's so many different ones. Do they all have the same value, or is it just different? I know some of it, like even the Hawk2 girl made up a fake cryptocurrency and scammed a bunch of people. But like, how do people know what is the right one to invest in?
Yep. So I think the easiest way to start is the way you have to. So the way I would break it down. Okay, hold on. So
take your time.
Okay, so repeat the question just one more time. Like, almost where to start.
How would somebody know, hey, if I want to invest in cryptocurrency, how do I go about doing that? And what is the right currency to look into?
Oh, sure. Okay. So the way that you can break it down, I believe, is that you should start with the all-timers, right? Is first of all, get an education. Before you start putting any money towards anything, get yourself an education and look at so if you get yourself a Coinbase account, that's the first thing I would say. Coinbase or Gemini, something that's regulated by the U.S. government. They are highly regulated. They require a KYC, which is a financial crime prevention program unto itself. Every major financial institution has to comply with U.S. law. So first of all, start with a reputable exchange.
I've heard of Coinbase. So.
Yeah, Coinbase, and so they are remarkably reputable. They have an incredible compliance department over there. Their programs are top notch, and you can believe that your money is secure when you go there.
Okay.
In fact, Brian Armstrong, who's the CEO of Coinbase, when he started this, he started with a compliance program before he started offering coins. He wanted to be compliant with the US government right up front. He wanted to work with the government because the moment you start, a lot of people believe that cryptocurrency and financial freedom means freedom from the government. That is not
true.
what this is about. Financial freedom, from my perspective, is, you touched on it a minute ago, Mike, is the idea that you've got greater control over your finances and you're able to operate outside of the traditional financial institution.
Because like banks get bought up all the time. Like I have Chase, but Chase used to be Bank of New York. It got absorbed whatever. And like things constantly change, and the way we've seen bailouts for banks and stuff like that, and people have lost millions because of various things. I feel like this is a way of feeling like, okay, I know that this particular currency or this particular investment is much more secure long term for me.
Well, it's important to note that cryptocurrency is still a very volatile asset. It'll go up and down
All the time.
5% a day, every day. But if you look at the log curve, if you zoom out, right, you see this a progression upwards, right? If you look at if you don't look at the daily, right, where you see the peaks and the valleys of the bear markets and the bull runs, but you just look at the log curve, it's this smooth line upwards, and you're able to see that over the long term, it has gone up, it will continue to grow up, and it's continued to gain legitimacy. It gained legitimacy back in, I believe it's 2018, 2019, when the CFTC declared a Bitcoin an asset. It gained legitimacy again when El Salvador declared Bitcoin as legal tender in its country, which has resulted in 95% increase in tourism. It was
No kidding.
the president's drive to change his country. And he's reduced crime dramatically. He's increased tourism. He's increased the economy. He's currently in the black. He bought it, I want to say, at like $40,000 or $50,000 a Bitcoin. And over this last crypto winter, it was some rough going there for a minute for him, but he is way ahead of the curve now.
What do you mean when you say crypto winter?
Crypto winter is basically a cooling off. It's a cooling off period of, so the bull runs typically yield extreme gains. So in 2019, Bitcoin went from, I want to say, $14,000 or $15,000 a Bitcoin, and it surged all the way up to $68,000 over I think it was a 5 or 6 month period. Wow. But then it came down when China decided to ban Bitcoin mining in China. So it went down, then it went back up a little bit, and then it came all the way down in March 2022 when this little thing called the Ukraine war happened, when Russia decided to cut off oil pipelines. So during times of great economic prosperity, Bitcoin is considered a risk on asset. So I believe that's right. So it's a risk on, right? So when things are looking good and people have the money to invest, they will. So that's when everybody decided to get in, and it was also during a time of COVID. Mm-hmm. So money was being printed. Bitcoin is seen as an inflation deterrent, because it is capped at 21 million coins. More than 21 million coins will never be produced, unlike the US dollar, that they can continue to print money from here till
we're blue in the face. Till the end of time, yeah.
And we have in fact, inflation has driven the US dollar against Bitcoin. Listen, there's a reason why it surged from $50,000 in October to $105,000.
Wow. A coin?
One Bitcoin has gone from, I believe it reached a low in the 30s. It reached a low in the 30s, and now it's sitting at 106,000 within the last 18 months.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because right now, as of this recording, I think it's 105,000 and change.
Holy.
Meanwhile, the U.S. dollar continues to. Well, at least inflation is under control now.
The one thing that I, especially because we just recently had an election, and currency is sort of like people are more worried about their money during an election year and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Does that have impacts on crypto as well? Like you'll see like the value of it, or the people wanting to invest in it at certain times if there's economic upheaval and things like that as well, and government change and stuff?
So I think this is a very interesting cycle. I think that this is the time where we actually start getting rid of crypto winters. So where the fluctuation of interest in crypto waxes and wanes with the economy. I think personally that we are now going to see a trend of a progression upward. It may not be as, it won't be, I'll tell you right now, it won't be as drastic as it has in the past, but it will progress upwards in a slow but steady state because of the legitimacy that has been handed down by the SEC, the approvals of the ETFs back in November 2023, right? So now there's more than 13 Bitcoin ETFs, the biggest of which is IBIT by BlackRock. The ETFs are now these ETFs are now available at every major financial investing institution. You can buy IBIT through Schwab, through TD, through any brokerage account. You can now buy Bitcoin ETF. Now, what's important about that is that the SEC, before granting permission to offer this to customers, they made one rule. It's called a spot Bitcoin ETF, meaning that it's not a synthetic ETF, whereby in the past people have offered securities without which are based off of the price of an asset. So it could be the Matt Lappas gold ETF, and I don't have to hold gold, but people can invest in my ETF, and as the price of gold goes up, then it will go up. Then the value of the investment will go up. But that's without me having to hold it. It's a derivative. So it's derivative based off of the price. The SEC said, telling you right now, you are not. They looked at BlackRock, they looked at Schwab, and I wasn't in the room, so this is. But
you're paraphrasing.
I'm paraphrasing because of it. You are to offer a spot Bitcoin ETF, meaning that for every cent that you take in from your investors, you must hold in Bitcoin. So if Matt Lappas invests $100 in the IBIT BlackRock ETF, you are going to go into the market and you're going to buy $100 of Bitcoin and you're going to self-custody it. You're going to hold that Bitcoin on your books. So as the price goes up, everybody wins. But if the price goes down, you have skin in the game.
Okay.
Because you're not going to leave your clients. You're not going to leave your clients in the lurch. It's not going to be another 2008 financial crisis where they were creating synthetic home equity loan based securities without holding things on their books. So
and like this is going to sound like a layman statement, but like
no, please.
But like a person that manages someone's Bitcoin money can't do a Bernie Madoff on somebody, essentially.
Correct. Right. Exactly. By federal law, they have to hold every single one. For every red cent that comes into BlackRock's hand from the street, they have to own every red cent in Bitcoin also on their books.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Wow.
So it just shows, but now there is legitimacy. There are 15 or 16 spot Bitcoin ETFs that are offered to the market. Right now, every single day, Bitcoin miners produce X amount of Bitcoin. The number is escaping me at the moment, but the financial institutions that are offering these ETFs are soaking up 4 times that amount that Bitcoin miners are producing. So meaning that the demand for Bitcoin is vastly outweighing the supply.
Oh yeah.
And so it is very, very hard to get your hands on Bitcoin nowadays.
I'm sure, yeah. Now, do you have to have like a certain? I know a lot about technology and computers. Do you need like to have a server farm as a Bitcoin mining company to scour the internet to find the pieces, or to like, how does that work? I don't understand how the mining aspect of it works.
Sure. So I'll actually take you through the process and a little bit of background. I'm the owner, manager, founder of Syntiro Bitcoin Mining. It is a small commercial grade Bitcoin mining farm based out of Indiana. We use 100% sustainable energy from the Indiana grid through our co-host. Indiana has one of the largest solar arrays in the country, and they also have, I believe, wind and hydro that are feeding the grids. So it's a very little known fact about how important sustainability is to the great state of Indiana.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that is where we hold our miners. They are specialized computers. They're called ASIC miners, and they are specialized computers. It's basically storage containers that are retrofitted with server racks and high-powered fans to keep things cool. They are fitted with high security cameras and monitors with automation in order to make sure that the miners never really overheat. They make sure that they're running efficiently. We have windows that look into the miners themselves. There's external security. There's fire deterrent. They've got everything under the sun to make sure that these computers, which are quite expensive,
They're not your little Dell PC, I'll tell you that much.
They are not. They are specialized. They are specialized. There's actually no operating system on them. It's basically, in layman's terms, think of DOS back in the day. So
It's just running a terminal command,
It's
basically.
running a small terminal to make sure that it's working, that it's connected to the Bitcoin network, and that it's pointed to a certain Bitcoin mining pool, which we'll get into in a minute. But the idea of what the Bitcoin mining process is, right? So maybe let's just even take a step back. What is blockchain technology?
That's a really good question, because I don't know how to explain that.
Okay, so blockchain technology is nothing more than a digital public ledger. And think of like a really big accounting ledger. But it's known to everybody. It is updated constantly through the miners. Miners are nothing but transaction validators. So what happens is that if you think about it, on the Bitcoin network, transactions are consolidated into blocks every 10 minutes. So there are several thousand transactions that come into the Bitcoin network every single second. They are bundled into blocks every 10 minutes. A Bitcoin miner, which is nothing more than a specialized computer, processes these transactions on behalf of the network. They validate to make sure that the sender has money in their account. They validate the receiver's address. They validate that they process the transaction, and then they validate that the person receiving the transaction has in fact received it. So it's the validation process. So it's just specialized computers validating a transaction. There is nothing more to it. Think of Visa and MasterCard with all of their server farms in order to process their transactions. The difference between what I do and what Visa and MasterCard does, there's very little difference, except for one major one. They have something called what we would call a centralized processing function, right? So all of their server farms are together, right? They're all of the, but of course that lends itself to hacks, to terrorist action, to mass outages. The Visa and MasterCard network could go down. It is a one point of failure, right, is what it is. What cryptocurrency does is one of the things that the reason why people believe it to be secure. And it is secure, especially Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the most secure digital asset in the world that the world has ever seen.
Wow. And no one knows who created it.
And nobody knows who created it.
It's so crazy.
And that's one of the things, right? People, before we get into that. So the decentralized nature of it, right? Which is so imagine, so I've got a bunch of miners in Indiana. There are miners in Idaho with their hydropower, Montreal, Iceland, South America, across the Middle East. There are miners underneath underneath dunes, right, because they're soaking in solar power in order to power these miners. 37% of the Bitcoin mining, the processing power, is held in the United States, which means that 63%, if I'm doing my math right, did I do that right? Yeah, I did that right, is around the world.
Wow.
So, as opposed to Visa and MasterCard, which are processing all their transactions in one small location here in the United States, they have, the Bitcoin mining processing unit is global. Wow. And there's no single point failure for anything. If my servers go down, then Jimmy's across the street will take care of it, or John's, or whoever. Wow. It is an ever-growing, sustainable network. In fact, it has grown over the last 6 months 50%.
Wow.
And just a little bit of context around how big the Bitcoin network is right now. The energy used by the Bitcoin network is equal to that of Argentina's.
The whole country.
The country.
Wow, that is.
But now there's a couple of course, pitfalls with that, right? Or at least perceived pitfalls. Well, oh my God, the energy, it's fossil fuels. You're burning fossil fuels in order to power this.
Basically what you described is a lot of them are utilizing renewable energy as a way to power these spaces. So it's almost like the carbon footprint of these things is so much smaller, even though the energy is so massive.
56% of all Bitcoin mining today is used with sustainable energy.
No kidding.
56. That is the latest. And
That's more. It's a lot more than what it costs when they're printing money somewhere in the mint.
Correct. That is exactly right. So that's the first thing. Sustainable energy is driving Bitcoin mining, is driving renewable energy investments the world over. Just like I mentioned in the Middle East, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, he is working with investors in Dubai and in Saudi and they are looking at either building or they're looking at establishing Bitcoin miners underneath sand dunes using solar energy in the desert, right? It's all this empty space.
Yeah.
And when you go underneath the dunes, it's extremely cold.
Yeah.
So it'll keep the miners running. It'll keep things cool. They can go 24 hours. It won't impact the miners. And there's no sustainable, and it's all 100% sustainable energy.
That's
Geothermal. They use geothermal power in Iceland and in Costa Rica and across South America. Also in the Nordics as well. Same thing. A lot of geothermal energy, a lot of hydro in the Nordics. And even in Idaho, Wyoming, Niagara Falls area, Canada, a lot of hydro going on up there. So the idea that basically that the Bitcoin network is really killing the environment, it is a misnomer, and it's getting better every single day.
What's funny, you're just listening to you, I can hear how passionate about this you are, because you've not only just taken the time to understand the industry of it, but like the global impact on it as well. You genuinely sound like you care about that whole aspect of it too, which I think is pretty cool.
I genuinely believe that Bitcoin and digital currency will reshape global finance forever. And I'm not saying that in a hyperbolic manner. I truly do believe it. I believe that already Bitcoin has been a catalyst for economic growth. Like I mentioned, the ETF approvals. Every major financial institution across this great world has stood up crypto research, trading, customer service desks. They have created thousands of jobs. In fact, the global blockchain market is expected to hit, right now it's sitting at just shy of $2 billion. No, I'm sorry. It's the global blockchain market should hit $1.6 trillion by 2030. Trillion. I'm going to double check that, because I'm almost certain. I apologize. You can edit this. Yeah, right now Bitcoin. So just to really to push that through, Bitcoin right now, as of this recording, is sitting at $2.1 trillion market cap.
Wow,
and it's it's growing bigger and bigger and bigger. The energy refinement, the executive orders on energy refinement, President Trump signed yesterday, is that you hear that, oh well, he's going to drill baby drill and frack. It's not for the purposes of it's for the purposes of driving down the cost of oil and to make things better for the American people in terms of filling up their cars and trying to lower costs and bring our inflation down further, because of course transportation costs are killing our supermarket prices, our gas prices and everything. But that excess energy is going to be used specifically for the growth of AI and crypto asset innovation. And when I heard him speak at Bitcoin 2024, he gave an hour-long speach.
Trump did? Really?
Trump. He spoke for an hour. He was the keynote speaker. I believe it was that Sunday. That was the last day. He was and he gave an hour-long speech. And the only thing that I can hear at the end of it was Jeff Daniels in that famous television scene. I think he was on a show called The Newsroom.
Yeah, where he yells at the girl in the audience and then he says hire her later on because he comes in for it.
Well, he said, the question was posed, why is America the greatest country in the world?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he says it's not.
Phenomenal scene. Yeah.
It's not anymore.
Or like
When I hear Bitcoin, not even just Bitcoin, but the idea of Elon trying to take us to Mars, and people and electric cars, and now we've got hydrogen cars, and now and all of these incredible companies, Amazon and Google, trying to it. All I heard was Jeff Daniels yearning for an America that stood for what was right, that we built great big things, made unbelievable technological advances, and we didn't scare so easy. That's what I hear when we're trying to make these kinds of innovations. The passion in America, again, the startups across America, because they believe that there's something else out there. Bitcoin has allowed countries around the world to fight inflation. What's called the IMF came out with a study. It said Bitcoin could reduce remittance fees by $4 billion annually. Think of all the families that have immigrated to this country and send money back to their country to help their families, and all the fees that go along with that.
Yeah,
they can save $4 billion annually by taking their US dollar, putting it in Bitcoin, and sending it across the internationally.
Because it's borderless, basically.
It's borderless. It is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week forever. It will never stop processing. Unlike traditional finance, I'll give you an example. This is what we mean by financial freedom. This is what we were touching on before. I'll give you an example. The transmission of my car failed, which older car, but eventually transmission went. I brought it to the shop. I had to go get I had to get money. At the end of the day, the branches are only open from 9 to 3.
Yeah.
I've got 2 kids. My wife and I, we both work.
That's what they say, the joke, the banker's hours kind of thing.
It was right. And to get to the branches are really, really hard. And you're only allowed to take out $1,000 at a time. And the transmission does not go $1,000.
No, it's more like probably 4,000.
But to get to the bank, to be unable to access your money when you need it the most.
Yeah.
And if you want to send a wire of $10,000 or more on a weekend,
good luck.
It's 2 to 3 business days for that process, for that to be transacted. The fees are remarkably high to send that wire. And if it's 1 digit off, it's lost forever.
Yeah.
So the idea that you can access your funds, you can send it in an instant. Mike, if you were in France right now, you got mugged on the street and your passport's in the hotel, and you said, "Matt, I need you to send me money." And you were able to get a prepaid phone, download your Coinbase app. I could have you get $10,000, $15,000. In an instant for a couple of bucks on a Sunday night if you needed it.
Wow.
Right? Like, that's the power of Bitcoin. The power of Bitcoin is that you're able to send it across to your family without spending a ton of fees. It has allowed self-custody of your own money, has allowed the Ukraine refugees to flee their country, flee their homes, and land in random countries around Europe, and they were able to get food, hotels, and being able to provide for their children when they've been completely displaced. That was the power of Bitcoin.
Wow. That
they're able to have that on their phone, and they don't have to go to the bank or
ATM in rubble.
Right, exactly. They were able to be self-sustaining any given time during the worst times of their life.
That's wild. Now, did you go to school for finance, or what did you?
I went to school for. I graduated from Stony Brook with economics and history. I am graduating with my MBA from Indiana University, specializing in entrepreneurship and management this May. So no, I'm really not a finance guy. I love technology. I'm an operations guy. That's one of the reasons why I like Bitcoin. It's simple. It's a pretty simple concept, right? We were talking about the blocks of transactions. The blocks every 10 minutes get added to the end of an account ledger. And they create a chain, blockchain.
It's a good way to explain it. I kind of visualize it like when you defrag your old PC and just little dots goes ding, and it goes at the end, it goes at the next line. That's how I visualize it in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Right. Well, or even think of when you go to Home Depot, right? You're pulling that chain. It's just imagine an extra set of transactions added to the end of that chain that updates the accounting ledger in perpetuity. That's it. And then the idea of what mining is that just like any operational function to get a valuable asset, gold, silver, palladium, copper, name it, that if it comes out of the ground, oil, if it comes out of the ground, there's an operational function, right?
Right.
They drill, they mine.
It's the same
Mine.
same theory. Okay. Yeah.
So now you're performing a function and then you're getting an asset back. So you buy these computers, you link them to the network, you process the transactions on behalf of the network, and then you get a fee, which goes. So people that use the network, they pay fees. The miners get a portion of that. But then the network gives you a newly minted portion of Bitcoin on top of that. And then that's the function of mining, right? It's just like, right? Like any other valuable asset. So that's what that's where the mining nomenclature comes out.
Well, another like item of cryptocurrency or this digital asset is that of NFTs. Are they kind of dead now? Is that just like a pandemic buzzword thing that now is not as valuable, or are NFTs still a valuable thing? People still buy those and trade them and whatnot, or is it just magic?
NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens, they are no different than any other cryptocurrency.
Okay.
That you have to be discerning about what you buy, when you buy it,
right,
who you're buying it from, where you're buying it. There are very valuable ones. An interesting little case study, because I also had no idea what an NFT was. And I finally figured out that, and a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTubing, but essentially everybody thinks that they're just pictures, right? You're buying these pictures and you are, and now you own a picture.
Yep.
Okay, great. Now what? Well, what people need to really understand is that buying one of these NFTs is like joining a club, that there is an underlying function that goes along with it. So I'll give you an example. I bought an NFT. I think it was called Crypto Sharks, and it was little pictures of sharks. But underneath the picture was a business.
Okay.
Was that and I bought one, I think it was like $20, but I wanted to see what the function was. Like, what's the
point of this?
What is underneath it all? And so I bought this NFT. You go to the website and now there's now a link to the Discord. You now link your wallet to the Discord in order to validate that you're a part of it. And now this whole Discord channel opens up to you now. And then there's welcome packets. This is what we're doing with the money from the NFTs. So I think they raised something like $50,000 or $60,000 or something like that in NFTs in producing these sharks. And they gave every member a hoodie. It was actually a really cool hoodie. I really love it, actually. And
that's funny.
But what they did with the money was that they actually leveraged it they leveraged the money in order to buy cars, in order to started renting them on Turo and a couple of other peer-to-peer rental sites. And then so it's basically to start a business. So now you own a share in a business.
Okay.
And then they were reinvesting profits, and they were buying more cars, and the pandemic hit and they lost all their money. So but that's why you will see a lot of celebrities buying, what were they? The Ape Yacht Club, the Mutant Ape Yacht Club, and all these other.
There was a bunch of like comic book artists and stuff like that. They were creating NFTs of some of their art as a way to sell a piece of that art to grow whatever they're doing for their independent comic book they might have been producing or whatnot, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. So that's the other option. That's another NFT, right? And maybe we can take a step back as to how NFTs are even produced, right? So NFTs, which is a non-fungible token, it's a line of code that, just like every Bitcoin, every Ethereum, Solana, there's a code, there's an underlying code that goes along with it, and it is assigned to the network, and in order to understand the ownership, and you can see where that code goes, right? So if one of these figures, you take a picture of it, and you assigned it a code, you assigned it a title, a name, it's metadata.
Right.
So basically you give them a code, there's underlying metadata, you put it onto the Ethereum network. And the way you do that is you go through OpenSea or Rarible. These are examples of NFT marketplaces, but they also have NFT minting websites or functions. They've got tools that allow you to mint. So you give them the picture, you give them the metadata and the code, and then you add some money to your wallet. They've got a gas, so they call it gas fee, the thing that's a transaction fee.
Right.
And it's going to be more expensive than just sending crypto back and forth, which is pretty simple. And instead of it being $4, it might be 40 to mint this thing, but now it's a part of the network. And now I can transfer ownership of that item from me to you if I send it. And so
would that be, I mean,
so it applies to multiple things. So you can apply it to homes. You could buy it, which people buy cars through NFTs. They buy there's an infinite number of applications for NFTs that are worthwhile beyond the pictures of sharks and apes and
like
and pixels.
Is the thing like the pictures of sharks or comic art, like, are you essentially buying the intellectual property of that image?
Yes, so it couldn't be just the intellectual property of the image. So for example, Beeple, he is a unbelievable digital artist. He's been doing it, I think it was like 25 years before he ever got recognized. And then of course he created some NFTs, and now he is one of the wealthiest artists in the world because his art is actually, it is representative of the times. It is unique. It's awe-inspiring. Like, it's unbelievable, the stuff that he produces. So it is intellectual pride for its owning, and you can take those pieces of art and they have got stores in Manhattan now where they actually give you like really big monitors. You upload them and they're in 4K, and you display them in your home like you would any other piece of art, except it's digital. And then you can sell that and put a new thing into your screen. Like it actually is art.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it can be applied to a lot of other things: intellectual property, to music, to movies, et cetera, et cetera. There's new ways of looking at NFTs. Yeah.
No kidding. So I have one other question that I'm really curious about is, when someone is trying to get into crypto, what would you recommend? What are some of the things that they should have?
Sure. So in addition to taking it slow, setting up an account with a reputable exchange like Coinbase, going with the big guys first, get a little bit of Bitcoin, a little Solana, Ethereum, not so much for me. That's just my own personal thing. And then looking into the use cases for all these other things that we've discussed today. Security. We've always talked about taking control over your financial destiny, for lack of a better phrasing. So the best way to do that is by getting yourself a really good digital wallet.
Okay.
Actually, a couple of samples here. The industry standard is this Ledger. So this is the Ledger wallet. This is the Ledger. All you have to do is plug in the USB-C to your USB-C. You download the Ledger app. You're able to then move your coins from your Coinbase, your exchange, from that wallet, from your Coinbase wallet to your Ledger wallet. And now it is what we call cold storage. There's two types of storage. There's hot storage, which is a wallet that is connected to the internet.
Right.
And then there's something called cold storage. So you connect this to your computer through USB-C. You transfer it to your wallet, right? And then you disconnect it. And the only way for your coins to go from your Ledger wallet to back to your Coinbase or to anywhere else in the world, it must be connected, because this contains the private keys that will validate where the transaction is coming from. So that is the point. So it is super important. So there's Ledger, there is the Trezor. The Trezor just came out with a brand new wallet. It is unbelievable. It used to be this little box. Now it's touchscreen. It's got two-factor authentication, which is a massive thing. Make sure that whatever you do, your cold storage wallet is two-factor authentication. This is another one. This is called the Lappas, it looks like a little phone.
That's what I think you had a second phone. It was a work phone.
It looks like a little phone, but on the back, it has a camera that allows you to scan QR codes so you can send. It's that way you don't have to type in the wallets. The wallets are several alphanumeric codes, and if you get one of them wrong, it's gone forever. So the point of the code is that every single wallet, it could be a hot wallet, it could be a cold wallet, for you to send back and forth, or it could even be an app on your phone. And so going from Stripe, or your Stripe app, your Venmo, your PayPal, whatever, all you have to do is, if I wanted to send to you using that, you would click on the receive button and up would pop a QR code with
and I
your
scan
wallet
this
address.
camera.
I would use my Lappas to then scan that thing, and it would download automatically the wallet address, so there is no mistake. whatsoever. That is the major advantage of a wallet like that.
Dude, I'm scared to hold this thing. I'm like, this is just, there's money in this thing. It's just
And the thing is that a huge word of warning. Make sure you don't write. Make sure you not only write down your restoration keys. So you've heard all the stories about people who have been scouring British garbage dumps looking for their hard drives of 10,000 Bitcoin that they threw out from years ago. You've heard about people losing wallets. So when I mentioned earlier that there are 21 million Bitcoin ever going to be produced, there actually only be 19 million. They estimate around 2 million Bitcoin have been lost because of misplaced restoration codes, because of lost wallets, lost hard drives, et cetera, et cetera. So 2 million are
just gone forever.
Right off the top, making it an even more deflationary asset than what we've already discussed. So not only write them down, put them in your safe deposit box, and they offer these metal wallets that they're literally these metal folding wallets that you can secure down with. So as opposed to writing it down on a piece of paper that could, of course, get ruined, they've got metal wallets that you can pop out these little alphanumeric letters. You put them together, then you screw it down so that way, and then you put it into your fire safety deposit box at home, and it will never get ruined, and you won't lose your coins. You could always restore your wallet so I could lose that, pal, but as long as I have my restoration code, you can get it back.
No craft. Wow, that's wild.
So those are the three big things. Take it slow. Go with a reputable exchange, and make sure you've got a solid custody plan.
Amazing. That thing is so cool.
How geeky is that?
It's fantastic. The epitome of geeky right there. Like, it's got a little dock on there. I wonder how you dock that thing into to watch it. Oh my God. I could imagine. Just please. I have enough problems that every time I do a podcast, I want to get into whatever that topic is. I'm like, I just don't, there's not enough money in the world for me to invest all the things that I want to get into. It's so stupid.
Yeah. Well, the advantage of this is that I think one of these, listen, it could be, you can invest $1,000 today. It could be 10,000 tomorrow. It could be 100,000 in 20 years. We could all lose it all.
Right.
That's really,
it's a crapshoot.
Knows really, but the signs are all there that it's going in the right direction. At the very least, protect yourself.
Right.
That there's an old saying in the crypto world: if you don't own your own keys, you don't own your crypto. Oh. Make sure you own your keys. Make sure you secure them. Make sure you protect yourself.
Well, thanks again. This is part one of a two-part conversation about cryptocurrency. Stay tuned next week as we continue our conversation with Matt Lappas, founder of Syntiro Mining. Stay geeky, everybody. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning into this episode of So You Want to Be a Geek. We'd like to thank the Geekster Media Network. I'm Michael Canetti. I'm your host, producer, and editor. We hope you enjoyed the journey into geekdom as much as we did. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Switbag for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more geeky goodness. Have a topic you'd like us to discuss or a guest you'd like to hear from? Let us know. So you want to be a geek at gmail.com and stay up to date and join the conversation. Until next time, keep embracing that inner geek and remember, the adventure never ends.
This has been a Geekster Media production.
This episode of So You Want to Be a Geek is brought to you by Comics Capsules. These are a great product for protecting your comics. They are UV resistant, crystal clear. They are stackable. They fit in your regular long and short boxes. They fully encapsulate your comics with a flip top hinge that allows you to access your comics anytime you want. They'll even fit with the bag and board in the sleeve. It is really, really cool. They have this great little eye hook. I have some hanging up back there. I have some over there on display. Because sometimes you just want to display your cool comics without having to send them out to CGC and waiting and spending a fortune on getting them graded. This stuff works great. I really, really love them. can even have like a dedicated label inside of them. They're super awesome. So our sponsor for this episode of So You Want to Be a Geek is Comics Capsule. Do you like hot sauce? I know I do. Well, one of our sponsors for this week's episode is Jablo Hot Sauce. They are a family-owned, locally produced, amazing Filipino hot sauce that was recently featured on Hot Ones. You're gonna love it. You can put it on everything from hummus to meats to vegetables, whatever you think of. They are a great company, family-owned, and locally produced Filipino hot sauce. If you want to find out where the punch is, check out Jablo Hot Sauce.